Black diner owner saves 10 bikers in snowstorm. Next day, a long beginning. The snow had started falling before dawn, thick and relentless, as if the heavens had torn open their frozen belly over the northern plains of Wyoming. By noon, Interstate 90 was a white serpent, buried under drifts and whipped with winds sharp enough to skin a man's face raw. Most sane people had already bunkered down in motels or roadside inns, but some weren't so lucky. Ezekiel Zeke Carter, a tall, broad-shouldered black man with a beard streaked in gray, had been running Carter's Diner for 15 years. A lonely structure of chrome and neon. It sat like a lighthouse in the storm, 20 miles from the nearest town, surrounded by endless fields now swallowed by snow. The storm had kept customers away. Zeke sat on a stool behind the counter, polishing a chipped coffee mug, the jukebox humming faintly in the background. He had long since learned that on nights like this, it was better prepare for the unexpected. At 3:17 p.m., the unexpected arrived. The front door burst open, snow blasting inside. 10 figures stumbled in, bikers, leather jackets frozen stiff, faces red from cold. Their motorcycles were useless in this storm. They'd abandoned them by the roadside and trudged through blinding drifts until they saw the diner's faint neon glow. "Please, man," one of them rasped, collapsing against a booth. "We'll freeze to death out there." Zeke's eyes scanned them. They looked rough, tattoos, scars, the stink of gasoline and trouble, but their desperation was real. "Sit yourselves down," Zeke said calmly, his deep voice carrying a quiet authority. "Ain't nobody dying in my diner tonight." He lit the old furnace in the back, shoved hot coffee into shaking hands, and threw bacon and eggs onto the sizzling griddle. The diner filled with the scent of warmth, grease, and survival. The bikers exchanged uneasy glances. They weren't used to kindness, especially from strangers, especially from a black man in the middle of nowhere. But Zeke wasn't a man who measured worth in appearances. He had fought too many battles in his life to let snow or suspicion break his code. As night fell, the storm howled like a pack of wolves circling prey. Snow pressed hard against the windows. The road was gone, buried. The bikers, thawing out, began to reveal their colors. Their leader, a broad man with a scar across his cheek, introduced himself as Reaper. His gang called themselves the Iron Fangs. "Why you helping us?" Reaper finally asked, his tone sharp. "Don't you know who we are?" Zeke shrugged, flipping a pancake. "You're men about to lose fingers if you stayed outside. That's all I need to know." One of the bikers, a wiry young man named Mason, whispered, "Man, this place feels safe. Like it's not just heat. Something else." Zeke didn't answer, but he felt it too. The diner always had a way of pulling the lost. As the hours passed, the men opened up. Stories spilled across steaming mugs about lives of violence, regrets, families left behind. Mason admitted he hadn't wanted to join the gang at all. Reaper listened silently, his expression unreadable. At midnight, the storm grew violent enough to rattle the walls. The power flickered, then died. Only lantern light remained. That's when the sound began. A deep, resonant hum, like metal grinding beneath the earth. The bikers stiffened. "The hell is that?" Reaper muttered. Zeke set his jaw. He'd heard it before. This diner, his diner, wasn't just brick and chrome. It sat on the fractured edge of a tearing reality, a rift that opened once every decade when storms of unusual magnitude tore through the plains. He'd discovered it by accident years ago, and he'd sworn to guard it. The hum grew louder. A ripple of light, faint but visible, shimmered in the far corner of the diner, like heat waves on asphalt. "What the—" Mason started, but Zeke cut him off. "Stay calm. It won't hurt you unless you invite it." But calm was impossible. The shimmer grew into a distortion, a swirling oval pulsing with bluish light. Through it came shadows, elongated and twitching, moving in ways no human shape ever should. One biker screamed. Another reached for a knife. "Don't!" Zeke roared, his voice like thunder. "Steel makes him stronger." The gang froze. Zeke grabbed a wooden baseball bat from behind the counter. He had carved runes into it over years of preparation. The portal widened. Out slithered forms, tall, slick-skinned beings with eyes like lanterns. Their limbs bent backward, claws dripping frost. They were hunters from the other side, drawn to storms, feeding on human heat. The bikers, hardened as they were, trembled. "What are they?" Mason cried. "Not from this world," Zeke said grimly, "but they can bleed." The creatures lunged. The diner erupted into chaos. Zeke swung his bat with precision, striking one across the head. It shrieked, dissolving into vapor. The bikers, though terrified, grabbed whatever they could, chairs, wooden planks, chains, and fought beside him. Reaper slammed one creature into the jukebox, electricity sparking. Mason rammed another with a broom handle, screaming. The air stank of ozone and burning frost. Hours seemed to pass in frantic struggle. Every time one creature fell, another clawed through the rift. "Close it," Reaper bellowed, sweat streaming down his face. Zeke knew the ritual. He dropped to one knee, chanting words older than English, slamming his bat into the ground. Symbols carved into the diner's tile floor glowed faintly. The portal shuddered, shrinking, but the largest of the hunters forced its way through, towering, its scream rattling the diner's very bones. It struck Zeke hard, hurling him across the counter. Blood filled his mouth. The bikers hesitated, fear overwhelming them. Then Mason stepped forward, defiant. "We can't run. If he's fighting, we fight too." Something shifted in that moment. The gang, once bound by violence and selfishness, united. 10 bikers and one diner owner stood together. They fought with a fury born of survival, striking, holding, buying Zeke the time he needed. With one last roar, Zeke slammed the bat down. The runes flared. The rift sealed, collapsing with a thunderclap. Silence. The hunters were gone. Only the sound of the storm outside remained. The biker stood panting, battered, staring at Zeke in awe. "What the hell just happened?" Reaper rasped. Zeke wiped blood from his lip. "You asked why I helped you. Now you know. Sometimes it ain't about who you are. It's about being in the right place when the storm hits." Ending. By dawn, the storm had eased. Snow still lay thick, but the sky glowed pale gold. The bikers prepared to leave, humbled. They fixed their bikes with Zeke's tools, packed what supplies he offered, and lingered at the doorway. Reaper stepped forward. For the first time, his hard face softened. "You saved us, man. Twice. We owe you." Zeke shook his head. "Don't owe me nothing. Just maybe think about who you want to be when the next storm comes." Mason, tears freezing on his cheeks, clasped Zeke's hand. "I ain't riding with him no more. I'm done. You gave me another shot at living. I'm to keep." The others were silent, but the weight of change hung in the air. They rode off, engines growling through the snow. Zeke stood alone in the doorway, watching until they vanished over the horizon. He returned inside, setting the diner back to order, pouring himself coffee. The rift would open again. Someday, he would be here ready. But something told him that the Iron Fangs would remember this night. Perhaps when that day came, they wouldn't just be outlaws. They would be brothers in arms. The neon sign buzzed faintly, flickering against the dawn. Carter's diner stood tall, a beacon in the storm, guarding not just a road, but the world itself. And Zeke, the man no storm could break, pour another cup of coffee, waiting for the next unexpected knock at his door.